who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher, and their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher, and our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk. Their mission: to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I'm going to be the host for the episode. My name is Bill. Anybody else hosting?
I'm Vicki.
She's trying. She's nursing a cold.
I am.
Post-race hangover turned into a cold. She was due, but she's a trooper. She's going to put it in. Miss Vicki, we have a guest.
I am. I'm here.
Yep. Miss Vicki, our guest. Mario Korf is back. We're going to talk
I know,
to
one of my
Mario
favorite
some more.
people.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you guys about aerodynamics for endurance racing.
Yes.
And I thought about this because when I went down to your garage recently and I saw your race car before your race, I was like, oh, they could do the following things. And then I went to pit race and did a race there, and I saw lots and lots of cars that looked a lot like your car.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, they could be doing a lot of these things. And I thought, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in endurance racing for aerodynamics. And, there's very lax rules for most of it. And there's really not a lot of reason not to, but I thought, well, let's find out what would be the best aero for Bill and Vicki. And let's find out.
I think
they
you're being
wanted to.
nice when you say that the rules are lax, because most of the Aero rules for most of the endurance racing series, at least at the grassroots level, are near zero. You could put a yacht on top of your car and they won't care.
Yeah, that's true. You've done that with your cookie and with
that was a bad. The cookie is not the Aero solution that we're looking for. We've proven that.
And we built a boat around our MR2, which was also not the right solution.
Not the solution. It was a solution to a different problem.
Yeah, but it was fun. So I wanted to do something I've never done. So this is sort of Dunning-Kruger. I'm on the slope and I'm thinking, oh, let's try and do this thing. I wanted to try and coach you into some aero. Because what's the difference between coaching and instructing, Bill?
It's a two direction communication.
Yeah. So coaching is maybe asking a lot of questions. It could be almost like a Socratic method or Socratic dialogue, where I might ask you questions and elicit things from you. And in doing so, you would learn about them because you'll be teaching yourself without me, instead of me sort of like, you should do this. It has the following coefficient of drag and coefficient of lift and you blah, blah, blah. It won't stick. It won't stick. But if you come to those conclusions yourself, maybe it would.
So for the home game players, if they're not familiar with Socrates, he was the gentleman on Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. If you need to know any more, that'll cover it. Yes. There might be other references to him in history, but that's the one that comes to mind.
Exactly. So I just want to open the floor and by saying, looking at your Civic hatch, but I also want to look at two cars, your Civic, because I have some experience with Civics, and I want to talk about your Miata.
Okay.
Vicki, even though Vicki, it's a spec Miata and you're not endurance racing it. Like if you were going to endurance race your car, what would we do to that? Because there's a lot of Miatas that look a lot like yours.
This is true. Well, actually, if we could expand it to our third car, that would hit even more people. The E46.
I think that's another great one.
Because these are generic platforms.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to stay to the spec class, of course you can't modify it. But if you're going to go endurance racing, why not? Turn a spoiler on it, whatever. Okay.
So there's this guy crawling around inside my head, Mario. That I always try to put myself in the shoes of our listeners, and some of them wear very small shoes, which doesn't work very well for me. But that's beside the point. I could see a listener saying, "But Mario, it's just going to slow me down because it's going to be all drag, and I don't go that fast. So why bother?"
See, that's a great. So that is a statement. But I was going to try and ask a question, such as why wouldn't you do aero on your car? And there's your first answer would be something like, well, you don't want to slow your car down.
Yeah, it's slow enough with us driving. We don't need to go any slower.
So I think that is brings up one of the fundamental misunderstandings of aerodynamics, which is that it causes drag. There are lots and lots of things that reduce the drag on your car and would make your car go faster and use less fuel and use less tire and use less brake.
Well, that was the second one I was going to get to is, if all this downforce is just going to push my tire into the ground, I'm going to wear my tires out.
Right. So that's a good, well, I guess we're not going to do the Socratic method. I'm just going to have to play Mythbuster. So,
Well, I'm trying to give you questions that I've heard.
yeah. Well, no, that's a great one because downforce makes your tires last longer. This is not like a mysterious thing. Um, this is known through time. Um, Tires wear through abrasion by sliding mostly. And when you slide through a corner, it abrades more than when you stick through a corner.
So,
And by
just because
increasing
it's a
traction,
heavier, effective car, it's not
yeah.
pushing more and wearing
Mhm.
out. It's the slipperiness.
Yeah,
on the
let's just
surface.
take for instance, of like a track like Watkins Glen, where maybe turn 10 in a lot of cars, you're kind of flat out. In some cars, you kind of roll off, and some cars are flat out. But if you were sliding through that corner, you're going to be wearing your tires, whereas if you were stuck down, you're
Hmm.
not, right? And so maybe there's only one turn on your entire racetrack where you can go through with aerodynamics downforce and stick instead of slide. Well, that's just one corner. And does it matter? Well, over the course of an endurance race, hitting that corner many, many times, you will use less tire.
Right.
There was a great, you guys know I love the wind tunnel stuff. There was in the early 2000s, there was a SCCA group that was racing C5 Corvettes, and they took a C5 up to the wind tunnel in Canada, and you can purchase this wind tunnel report from them. Um, I think it's $35. Anyway, it goes through what they were trying to do, which is they were struggling with some tire wear issues and sort of grip issues and changing. Anyway, the long and short of it is when they increased the downforce, they absolutely increased the tire endurance, less degradation, and it lasted longer. So first of all, does downforce increase tire wear? No.
Okay.
Let's get off of that one. Yes.
Does it slow my car down, Mario?
Does downforce slow your car down? Of course
Yes.
not. No, does not. It makes your car go faster. So I think what you're asking me though is about drag, not downforce.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is definitely not the Socratic method. Okay, let me instruct. Um, Usually there's a relationship between downforce and drag such that if I add downforce, I also increase drag.
Yes.
Okay, but that's not always true. Some things increase downforce and also reduce drag. And some things, of course, just reduce drag and they don't change the car any other way, but they reduce drag. And we would want to do probably all of those endurance racing, right?
Right.
If you could reduce your drag by 10% and then it made no other changes on your car, you would do it.
Yes.
Yes. So when I looked over your car and your Civic, which I love, I had an EF hatch and your EG is just strikes all the right numbers. Um, I'm just like, well, there's a lot of low hanging fruit just when I looked at the front of the car, for example, and also when I went to pit race. Um, so let me ask you guys about hood vents and fender vents.
Hmm?
I didn't see any hood vents on your car.
Well, we had just replaced our hood
Mm-hmm.
from when we put holes in it by hitting a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So we had thought about it. We had
You had thought about it.
talked about it, but we ran out of time.
What do you suppose happens? Um, let's just follow the path of air for a moment as it hits the front of your car, goes over your car, under your car, and through your car.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to ask each of you a question about that. So let's start with Bill. Oh, Vicki, you're going on and off for some reason, your camera, but it's okay. So Bill, let's talk about the air that goes over the top of your car. What do you suppose is happening dynamically to your car as the air travels front to back over your car?
I guess my thought would be I'm getting, well, the air that goes over my car, I think would push the car down and backwards.
Sure, that's a good one. What about, so that is true of things like the windshield, right? And probably the
Mhm.
more vertical the windshield, the more it would push it, right?
Yeah, like my Mini would be just, basically a brick going through the air.
Yes, but generally the rear of a sedan or even a hatchback sort of slopes downward. And
Hmm.
what do you suppose that does?
So I would think there's going to be a little turbulence off the transition, and then perhaps some suction down, perhaps.
So, well, yeah, yes to the turbulence, but if you follow sort of the path of air as it goes in any direction, there's sort of a force in the opposite direction. Okay, so
Hmm.
if air is shooting downward off the back of the slope of the
Oh, okay.
car,
Yeah.
it's lifting the back of the car upwards. And what do you suppose happens when the back of your car lifts upwards?
Well, with our drivers, Mario, we are going to spin.
Vicky, let me ask you about that then, because I know that I think you spun your car. So aerodynamic lift is what we're talking about, and all cars, street cars, have a certain amount of aerodynamic lift. Okay, it's almost impossible to avoid. Yes, some air hits the front of your grille and your windshield and pushes the car into the road, but the rest of your car is sort of teardrop shaped and lifts upwards.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can think about tire grip as being the weight, as based mostly on the weight of the car, if you would decrease the weight of the car by 10%, you have lost 10% grip.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So we talked about the air hitting the front with the windshield and then sloping up and sort of lifting the back. So what is happening at speed the faster you go to your front and rear tires relative to the grip? What's happening?
Well, I mean, just by nature, um, the whole back end is light. The whole back end is light. So I have to be extra careful when I'm actually driving the front wheel drive, because it is easy for the back end to come around if I don't do something properly. So I'm wondering, is that what it is when the air is going over and it's lifting and it's kind of maybe making the back end lighter?
Yeah. So let me give you some numbers to put this into context. I measured a few cars in the wind tunnel and I have some data from some other cars. And generally, at about 100 miles an hour, you're seeing around 130 pounds of lift over the rear axle.
Now, what does that mean?
It
I
means
mean,
that,
not just for me, but for everybody else.
yeah, it means that the rear of the car is lifting upwards with the force of 130 pounds.
Okay.
It's just like an airplane wing creates lift,
Mm-hmm.
largely because it's sort of shooting air downward at an angle,
Mm-hmm.
downward. And the car is too. As the car
Mm-hmm.
goes through the air goes over the roof and kind of shoots downward at the back, and it lifts the back of the car up. And so you've lost 130 pounds of rear
Grip
weight. Yeah, and
and
grip.
grip.
So I just wanted to think about like on a Miata, which let's say is 2,400 pounds, okay, 1,200 pounds over each axle. If you were to lose 130 pounds over the rear axle, you've lost the rear of the car now weighs 1,070 pounds, and the front of the
Mm-hmm.
car is 1,200 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially though, you've lost 11% grip on the rear tires alone
Okay.
at 100 miles an hour. That's probably straight line speed, and at a more realistic, let's say 71 miles an hour, you've lost 5.5% grip on the rear tires as you're going around a corner. We've all gone around corners at 70 miles an hour, and now you've lost 5.5% grip. That's a lot of grip.
Yes.
What
So we need.
happens on a front wheel drive car?
That is, I'm attributing that to the front wheel drive car.
Okay, we were talking about a Miata. I'm sorry. I was
No,
saying it
no,
was
no. Because because it's the Honda. I'm sorry. It is the Honda itself that is super light.
okay. So
Because also
It's light.
I don't have a differential back there in the same sense where it's like a rear wheel drive where there might be more components back there to make it heavier. I'm not
yeah,
exactly sure. I just know that with the front wheel drive and the engine up front the way it is, and there's nothing back there, then
Yes.
the
Okay.
balance is highly off.
Yes. Let me give you some numbers. So I
Okay.
wanted to start with a Miata that was
Oh, I'm
2,400.
sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, it's fine. We're talking with a Miata that's 2,400 pounds and it's got 1,200 pounds on each axle. And
Okay.
it lost 11% grip at
Right.
100 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Your Civic,
Mm-hmm.
which is 2,400 pounds, let's just say. Let's say it's the same weight. Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to have 1,600 pounds on the front and 800 pounds on the rear.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah, it's roughly 65-35 or something like that split. So what happens is when you lose 130 pounds of rear downforce, you've lost 130 pounds of lift on the rear. You've lost 16% grip on
Mm-hmm.
your Civic, not 11%.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So this is why aerodynamic downforce over the rear is so necessary and also actually quite necessary for a front-wheel drive car. Front-wheel drive
Mm-hmm.
cars have most of their weight in the nose, less on the rear. And so when they lose grip on the rear from aerodynamic lift, they lose a lot of grip.
Because they don't have that much to start with.
They didn't.
Mm-hmm.
They only had 800 pounds on the rear. And when you take 130 pounds off on the rear, now you're left with 670 pounds. Whereas the
Mm-hmm.
Miata at the same point had 1,070 pounds, 300 pounds more grip. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for that. I think you guys understand that rear lift is treacherous.
Yes.
So when people make fun of front wheel drive cars with wings on the back because the engine's not back there and the wheels aren't doing anything, why are you doing that? There's a fault in their logical assumption.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the same people to say, oh, it's stupid if you have a wing on a car that doesn't have 200 horsepower. Those people are great because you can go around them. You can beat them everywhere. I want to tell you a quick short story about my Veloster N. It's a front-wheel drive hatchback. It's roughly the same weight balance as your Civic. And I did a bunch of aerodynamic tests, which was just adding rear aero. I didn't add anything on the front, left it stock, and I just added progressively more aero. I started with the stock kind of no spoiler situation. I mean, just a stock hatchback. I added a spoiler, then I added a wing, and then I added a dual wing. Okay.
Right.
Each time I added more rear aero, the car went faster. So at Pineview Run, which is where I did some of these tests, the wing and the spoiler were actually the same speed, and the car went 0.7 seconds faster. And you're like, big deal, 0.7 seconds faster,
Yeah,
right?
that's a short track though.
Yeah. So and then and there's only honestly 3 corners where aero matters on that track. And when I put the dual wing on, it was 1.3 seconds faster per lap.
Wow.
And this is a minute and 26 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I said, okay, let's take this same situation to New York safety track, where the lap times are around 100 seconds. Okay, a minute and 40.
But your speeds are higher there.
Yes, the speeds are higher. There's a long straight. There's time for things to happen.
Right.
So I went to New York safety track, and it was about double. The wing and the spoiler were about 1.5 seconds faster than no wing, and the double wing was 2.5 seconds faster. So for the people who say that you shouldn't put a wing on a front wheel drive car, let me just say I'll go 2.5 seconds faster with no
Right.
front aero, 2.5 seconds faster per lap. That's all day long,
Mm.
right?
So yes, I mean, no doubt that's a big deal. A lot of times you'll see front wheel drive cars with a diffuser but no wing. Would that be complementary, supplementary, or opposing what we're saying now?
I want to talk about underbody in a bit.
Okay.
And we're going to table that because we were just talking about the air that goes over the top of the car.
Right.
For starters.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just do the underbody right now.
Okay.
So, Vicki, what happens to the air as it goes under the car?
It
Follow
lifts.
follow the path of air.
It lifts.
Probably, yes. Yes, it probably does lift a little bit. What else is underneath the car?
Just a lot of components. I mean, it's not smooth. It's not
Hot.
Yeah.
smooth. You have a lot of rigidness from the engine and components that are up underneath there.
Yeah, there's all sorts of junk. There's pipes, there's suspension
Mm-hmm.
arms, there's a big old exhaust can.
Mm-hmm.
And as the air hits those things, it does so in a sort of disorganized manner,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just sort of
Right.
creates what we call local flow separations around every single object. So the more air that goes underneath the car, the worse your situation is.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have to also think about tires. And Bill, what happens when air hits the front of a tire?
Uh, it's, I mean, from an aerodynamic standpoint, I think the air is very turbulent. Like I'm thinking really high Reynolds numbers and non-laminar in almost any aspect. It's kind of, from what I understand, it's like the worst surface on a sports car for
Good,
aerodynamic impact.
good summary. Good summary. It's the worst. Um, for the reasons that you mentioned, there's a lot of turbulence around it. Um, and also as the tire rolls forward on the ground and air is hitting it at 70 miles an hour, it's squishing that air, like kind of compressing it, and it shoots out either side of the tire. There's a compressed jet of air that shoots out either side of the tire. Some of
Mm-hmm.
it, half of it goes to the outboard side and it's not a problem. Half of it shoots across the inside of the car and it goes all the way down the car, hitting exhaust pipes and suspension components and all the other things underneath the car. Right. So we really want to organize the air underneath the car, get as less air as possible underneath the car and keep it away from the tires. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. Final thing. How does the air move through the car? And this is a two-parter.
Oh,
Um, I'm going to ask Vicki about engine and I'm going to ask Bill about cabin. So Vicki, how do you suppose the air moves through the front of the car to the rear of the car as it enters the radiator, brake ducts, or anything else that's in the front of your car?
well, I'm thinking that if it's entering in through my radiator, it needs some place to go and work its way out, and it really doesn't right now. So it just kind of goes into those components over the engine through the through the radiator. Probably if you don't have anything smoothing the radiator out between the radiator and the engine, it just kind of blows up and kind of creates a mess up underneath there, I would say,
Yeah,
air wise.
yeah, I would agree with that. And where does it end up?
I don't know. I don't really know because I know that there's some kind of venting up near like the windshield. Um,
Okay,
but
yeah, actually that is a high pressure zone. So actually the air at the windshield goes into the engine compartment.
yeah. So it probably doesn't really go anywhere. It just kind of hovers in there unless you have vents at speed.
Well, it
But
has to go somewhere, otherwise the air
or it goes
wouldn't.
back underneath the car.
Yes, it does. Because if it
There
didn't
you
go
go.
anywhere, the radiator would stagnate and air has to
Right.
move
So
through
it's
the
got to
radiator.
push
Right.
and go underneath the car.
Right. So just like we said, it's terrible for air to go under the car, and now we've put more air under the car.
More
Right.
air, more worse.
Yes. So Bill, and what
More
about
worse.
happens? What do you suppose happens to the air that goes in the cabin?
Well, I'm trying to think if there's any, yeah, in all of our cars, they're kind of enclosed towards the rear. Like there's basically the side window for
Mhm.
egress. So I think it kind of goes in or gets turbulent or gets buffeted around and eventually it just, I mean, it's got to leave for more air to come in, but it's got to leave the same way it came out. So I can't imagine that being anything good from an aerodynamic perspective.
No, it kind of sounds parachutey,
Yeah, like
right? It's got
drag.
to go
Hmm.
in, but it's got to come back out. And like you said, buffeting and other things that you can feel that sometimes, right? Your windows are open
Hmm.
because we have to race that way.
Or hear it, which is worse.
And let's say you're going around a right-hand turn. I mean, the air is coming in that left window like crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah. So we've understood now that the air going under the car is terrible. Air going over the car lifts it up, and air going through the cabin sort of pressurizes and creates a parachute. So wouldn't it be great if we could like mitigate those things and make our cars not do those things?
We need a track that's in a vacuum. That would be so easy.
That's such a good answer. Actually, that would solve all those problems, except that you couldn't really create downforce. And now downforce is grip.
It would be tough to do an
So,
endurance race with no air either. So
well, just so as we said that lift was bad, because it creates less traction. Downforce is good. It creates more traction.
Yes.
So there are some things that we can do to our cars that benefit drag reduction and don't otherwise greatly harm the car. Now,
Hmm.
given some of the things that we talked about, Bill, let's just go backwards in time and say, what kind of things do you suppose we might try to do to make the cabin less of a parachute?
I think we could use window nets, perhaps, and maybe the more tightly woven mesh type would be better than the widely spaced, NASCAR grid net looking things.
So one thing
Hey,
you're saying is keeping air from going in the windows.
Yeah, or
Great.
maybe a deflector on the A pillar might give us a little bit of love. Not sure it'd be good or bad, but it might help. I don't
No,
know.
those are things that we tested in the wind tunnel that are in my second wind tunnel report. We tried deflectors on the A pillar. We tried a little rail on the roof edge, the top of the roof edge, to keep air from curling into the top of the window.
So we did have one car that we've had in our history that had it was a Fox body Mustang, and it had no rear window, so it was just open. And I wasn't
Mhm.
sure if that was helping us or hurting us because I could logically make several assumptions, and I never figured out what the answer would be. Or is there a general tendency, or is it case specific?
Well, I did test something like that with on a racetrack with strain gauges, not in a wind tunnel. But I want to tell you something else we did in the wind tunnel with the Miata we took there. So oftentimes you'll see somebody with a Lexan rear window and
Right.
they've vented it. They'll
Hmm.
put some circular holes in the window.
Yeah, they do
Um,
that on the bumpers too.
yeah, they do. Yep. So what happens if you put, let's say, a few holes at the base of the windshield? What do you think happens to the car in terms of drag and downforce or lift?
The rear at the base, so towards the back.
That's where you often see people have like little pop holes or other stuff.
Uh, I think it's probably better than if it was at the top or the roof line, but I'm not
Right.
sure it's doing anything for you.
Well, that's why people put them there. They think that it's going to vent the cabin and it'd be nice to get that pressure, less of a parachute, right? Let's put a
Right.
hole in the top of the parachute and let some air out.
But you've got a Bernoulli effect going, so I'm not sure it's working for you.
Well, the problem is because the air that goes over the top of the car hits the trunk and becomes a high pressure zone. The air actually goes in the car
mm-hmm.
if you put the holes at the base of the windshield. So if you read my wind tunnel report, not a hard sell, I'll give you the data. Um, it increased drag and reduced the rear downforce. So you get less grip and more drag if you put the holes at the base of the window.
It sounds like racing. You do all that work and you get worse.
And of
Yes.
course, you have exhaust coming back into the car, which was an
Yeah.
issue that we had at one point with one of the cars.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and if you put those holes at the top of the windshield, the opposite, you actually reduce drag and you gain grip.
Oh, I was wrong. I went the
Yeah,
other
but
way.
it's not just you that's wrong. It's just about 90% of the cars that I see that vent their rear window do it incorrectly. So, to answer your question, should your Fox Body Mustang have the whole rear window gone? No. You should probably just leave a small gap at the top of the window, but leave the
Hmm.
rest of the window intact. But if you leave, let's say, a 2-inch gap at the top of the window, it would extract the air from the cabin
Hmm.
and almost sort of like lengthens uh, and reduces the backlight angle of the rear canopy.
Hmm.
I'm not going to explain exactly why, but that is like a useful thing to do.
Sure. Don't
Uh,
don't drill holes in your glass window, people.
yeah,
Just
not at the
just
base.
I or the top or the bottom or the middle. It's I
Yeah.
know how to do it. It's not fun.
Um, so that we were talking about the cabin, but I also want to talk about the underbody. So what are some other things that we might do to reduce the drag on the underbody?
Uh, you often hear people talking about flat floors or um, oh, I just blanked on the word. The piece of wood that we cut, Mario, that we put
Yeah,
on the
the,
front, the
the
splitter.
splitter. Yeah,
Just
supposed
blanked
to.
on that word.
Yeah, let's come back to the splitter in a minute. But yeah, flat floors. There's obviously some problems with your diff and your exhaust getting really hot.
Mhm.
So you need to either put NACA ducts or other things. But for endurance racing, absolutely. There's a ton to be gained by reducing drag on things underneath the car. Like, why wouldn't you? And
Sure.
also, oftentimes you'll get some downforce of that if there's some suction there. Um, I do want to talk about the splitter because in the world of aerodynamics, there are things that can reduce drag, like we just talked about, right? Maybe
Mhm.
some vent holes. And then there are things that both reduce drag and give you downforce. These are sort of the magical things, right? Wait,
Mhm.
I get downforce and drag reduction at the same time?
I know one.
Tell me.
Big desserts, because I get rounder and I weigh more. So I have
That's
more
true.
downforce and more aerodynamic efficiency.
Yes, but only on the left side.
Whatever. Just give me more dessert.
Well,
Don't get in the way of my dream here.
I wonder if there is anything like a dessert. Yeah, so the desserts. Vicky, what about you? Do you have any ideas about what might give you downforce and reduce drag?
Well, definitely we would have to vent the hood.
Yes.
We would
Excellent.
vent
Excellent.
the hood.
So venting the hood is a triple win. So A, you reduce the drag. And sometimes, I mean, it's not always hugely significant, but it's a small amount. Okay. What's happening is all the air that was going into your engine compartment and hitting all those things underneath the car and in the engine compartment, all that
Mhm.
air now goes out the roof in a much more direct fashion, right out the top.
Mhm.
And because it's going out the top and not creating lift, it actually pushes the car down, right? The air
Mhm.
is exiting upwards, it pushes the car downwards, you get a small amount of downforce. Like, if you really vented the shit out of your hood on your E46, you might get in the neighborhood of 40 pounds of downforce at 100 miles an hour.
But you'll
Um,
be cooler too, so that'll help you as well.
that was the triple win, but
Yeah.
you're jumping ahead.
Mhm.
Sorry.
But
I
even if
saw
you,
the test.
yeah,
I stole it from your office.
awesome. Well, even if you could get, let's say, 25 pounds of downforce, which is a reasonable size hood vent, let's say 200 square inches or something like that, you could
Mhm.
get around that. Um, and it's free. Like it doesn't create drag, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
The hood vents on my car made my car run about 10 miles, 10 degrees cooler.
Wow.
You'll see the temperature fluctuate around the track, and there's, just between 6 and 10 degrees cooler,
Mhm.
which I think is pretty significant.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially in endurance racing.
Yeah. And you got that with drag reduction and free grip. You're like,
Mhm.
hallelujah. Fender vents are similar in a way. You don't get the cooling effect, but they do almost nothing as far as drag. And you might get like 14 pounds of downforce.
This
Yeah,
is around your wheel wells.
yeah, on top of your
Okay.
fenders, basically,
Okay.
the arch of the fender there. That reduces the pressure in the wheel wells because air is getting pushed into there from your splitter and other things, and it just lets the air out. Sort of a parachute effect in there.
What about when you see like the some people or some cars will have a flare towards the back of their quarter panel and the back will be open?
Yeah, like if you were to really direct the air there in a smart fashion, and it can be useful. On the Miata that we tested, it was zero.
Hmm.
We cut that whole fender out to see what would happen.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's because there's basically a 90-degree angle that the air would have to come out and a forward-facing lip, like a small gurney flap.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
basically where the frame is pressed together.
Hmm.
The unibody there. And so it can't really go around that. So fender cut on the back of the wheel looks cool, does jack shit.
Hmm.
Fender vents on the top, they work.
Okay.
So hood vents, fender vents, something for free. Let's do
Yep.
another one. Splitters.
Yep.
Splitters reduce drag. So many people think, oh, I don't want to put a splitter. I don't want to put downforce on my car because it's going to make my car slower. Well, what if I told you that my best splitter reduced drag by 3 horsepower at 100 miles an hour? So basically, I got 3 horsepower for free with a splitter.
So just to be clear for everybody listening, you're talking about just the planar horizontal piece, not the front air dam or anything like that. Or are they
Yeah, no,
together?
no, no. The air dam is just, yeah, we'll talk about air dam in a second. On
Okay.
most cars, let's just say you just put a flat piece of wood underneath your car. Okay, like
Hmm.
it sticks out 3 inches and it's, let's say, 4.5 inch ground clearance because that's what I tested. These are pretty mild numbers. A 3-inch splitter is short. That's Grid
Yep.
Life Touring Cup size, and it's very short. And
And
four
that's
and a half
pretty high
inches
off too.
is really high.
Yeah.
It's like you'd really typically run your splitter at 3 inches, 3.5 inches. But I wanted to test it at this absurdly high number because I was doing other tricks. Anyway, so the standard splitter, which I was just called basic bitch splitter, was a flat piece of wood, plywood,
hmm
with a sharp lip. Like I didn't bother rounding it over or doing anything to optimize this splitter. I just stuck it on the bottom of the front of the car, and it reduced drag slightly, like on the order of like, 0.5 horsepower or something like that. Not much, but it did reduce drag, but it gave 130 pounds of front grip, front downforce.
Is that by just making the air underneath a little less turbulent, or is that
No, so yeah, it's a good question. It's there's pressure, high pressure on the top of the splitter blade, and there's low pressure underneath the splitter blade. There's suction underneath it, and there's pressure on top, and the difference between the two is where you get the downforce. So
even if it's flat horizontal?
I know
No
it's
tip.
flat and horizontal, but
Yep.
it still creates suction underneath the car because there's more air going over the top, and there's
Sure.
suction
Okay.
coming down. Yeah. So that is the basic splitter. Like I didn't try at all to make that thing any good. Then I did the same kind of splitter, the same exact shape, the same everything. I rounded the lip a little bit better. I tapered the trailing edge, and I curved the entire thing 5 degrees,
hmm
and it made 195 pounds of downforce. Not 135 or 130,
Right.
195. So 150% more downforce by sort of curving that splitter,
hmm
which means that the trailing edge kind of kicks up a little bit. Okay,
Yep.
so all it does is let the air expand behind the splitter a little bit more. And then I did another fancy splitter that was sort of in between. It actually had more curvature and it had some strakes on it and other stuff. And that one's the one that made 175 pounds of downforce and reduced drag significantly to the effect of gaining 3 horsepower.
So
At
if
100.
anybody wants to see that, they have to go see Khan's race car because I'm sure he didn't let you leave with that.
Oh no, that's not legal. It's not legal for his class.
I
Yeah.
know.
I would have done it in a heartbeat, but they have the dumbest splitter rules.
hmm
So, what I want to say about splitters is every car should have hood vents, and most cars should have splitters. But I do understand that like endurance racers rip their splitters off all the time. They
Yep.
go off track, which I don't understand. It's not a sprint race. Stop going off track. That's not where you win, make time up. Anyway,
But that tenth of a second, Mario, that could be the difference over
not
15 hours.
yeah, no, it's not. It's not where
Nope.
you make up time. You know it.
Nope.
So, um, for the endurance racers who like to go off-roading, I would say don't make a splitter. I would say make an air dam, just like you said. This is just a flat front section that builds up a little bit of pressure, but the underside is still kind of like a splitter. It comes back, it has a flat surface, it has some diffusion to it, and it creates downforce, but it doesn't have that lip that sticks out and gets stuck in the mud.
Okay.
But it still is can create a significant amount of downforce, and it just doesn't get in the way. So in looking at your car, Vicki, when I came into your shop, I said, "Oh, you don't have any hood vents. You don't have an under tray." And
You
to
said a
me,
lot of things.
I did. I was unkind.
You were horrified in an aerodynamic way.
I was, but then I went to pit race and
Your
looked at
car
all the
sucks.
cars.
Let me count the ways.
No, I looked at the pit race, and all the cars I saw there were the same. I mean, most people are doing a terrible job with endurance racing aerodynamics, and they are losing out on free drag reduction and free grip. So do the venting, right? Like we said, do the fender venting, do the hood venting, do a splitter or an air dam and an under tray. The under tray is the secret. It's not the splitter lip that's super important. That is, of course, important, but doing a proper under tray. And your car didn't have an under tray at all.
Nope.
Yeah, which means that you're not building any suction or any additional front grip, which in your case might be good because you have nothing on the rear of the car to counteract the
We have
downforce.
the beginnings of an under tray.
You know,
Yeah.
I've got a terrible, great idea.
Yeah.
It's brewing in my head. We have this thing we call Friendsgiving weekend where we have people come over and we do car projects in the hangar and I bribe with large, huge pieces of cow and other assorted animals and sidelines that Vicky makes because I make things that moo. So I'm just saying if your schedule allows the Friendsgiving weekend, we
It's
have
difficult.
we have plywood, we
I
have
would,
everything.
I would love to do it, except that my son is coming to town. I haven't seen him in a bit, and
We will bribe you another weekend. Don't worry. I have cow in the
okay,
freezer.
yeah,
I need 3 days to get it thawed and prepared, and we can have it covered.
yeah, outstanding. I'll be there. So I wanted to move to the back of the car because we were really just talking about some of the things on the front of the car that get something for free. Um,
So one thing before we go there, do we want to vent the wheels in the back as well?
the rear wheels, or I mean the behind the wheels,
Rear
behind the
wheels.
front wheels, the
Rear
rear
wheels.
wheels. There's less to be gained there.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, by that time I think the air is maybe a little dirtier, and I think the front air is a little easier to work with. I know that some people have done some interesting thing with the rear, but I haven't. And part of the reason for that is that the wind tunnel I use, this A2 wind tunnel, it doesn't have a rolling floor.
Hmm.
It doesn't have a suction for the boundary layer. It's kind of a smaller wind tunnel. It's basically, what can people like me afford? And so accuracy decreases the further you get downstream.
Because of all the interactions and
Yeah, like you were asking me about a diffuser, and I did test a diffuser in the wind tunnel, and I got really miserable results, but it might be because of the wind tunnel and not because of the diffuser. So it's a
hmm
really hard question for me to say.
Okay.
I'd love to say diffusers suck, don't use them, but all I can say is my diffuser sucked in that wind tunnel.
Right.
Yeah. Um, so let's talk about the rear of the car, and there are some things that you can do for free. I saw a lot of Miatas as usual, and some of the Miatas were just basic, like spec Miatas, right?
Yep.
With nothing on the end. So let's talk about spoilers for a second. You guys know what a spoiler is?
Yes, sir. It's
Yes.
the swoosh in the back.
The
Oh
swoosh.
no, no, it's when you give away the ending of a movie.
Okay.
That's a different spoiler.
Oh, sorry, wrong spoiler.
Wrong. This
Yeah.
isn't a Woot episode. This is a racing
Oh,
episode.
dang. Go
Um,
ahead, Mario.
yeah. Well, here's the spoiler. Spoilers,
The spoiler for the spoiler.
spoilers can reduce drag and give you downforce. So on a Miata, for example, like we tested spoilers at 5 and 8 and 10 inches tall, but mathematically you can kind of you can kind of interpolate that data and see what would happen at different heights. And probably somewhere around 2.5 inches or 3 inches, a spoiler is reducing the drag of the vehicle and also creating downforce.
Is that because it's affecting the turbulent flow behind the trunk area?
It has to do with some of that. It has to do with a cleaner brake at the
Hmm.
um, at the aft end of the trailing edge of the car, a cleaner brake. But I won't even I can't even say 100% that I understand the mechanism behind that. I
Okay.
know it kind of lengthens the roof line in a way because it sort of creates this high pressure bubble over the trunk, but I do know that it reduces drag. Anyway, the 5 inch tall spoiler, which is kind of decent sized, right? If you think about a
Hmm.
5 inch spoiler, like that's a pretty chunky spoiler.
Yeah.
In the wind tunnel, that made just over 100 pounds of downforce, rear downforce. And like, remember I said that the Miata made like 130 pounds of rear lift, right?
Right.
So
So you're almost back to neutral.
yeah, you've counteracted almost all of that lift, right? And it actually makes a little bit of front downforce too, the spoiler does. Um,
Okay.
why do you suppose, I don't know, that's not the question I want to ask. How much horsepower do you think it costs to make that 100 pounds of downforce? It's guesstimating time. Vicky, how much horsepower do you think it costs at 100 miles an hour? How much horsepower are you burning to put a big 5 inch, big blocky thing on the back of your car?
I couldn't even tell you.
Well, just throw out a guess. It,
How
Bigger
much how much force, how much weight?
no, how much
horsepower.
horsepower? Like, let's say
How much
your
horsepower?
car has 120 horsepower. It
Mm-hmm.
loses, let's say, 80 pounds due to drag. How much is it losing just from the spoiler?
20%,
Wow.
10%.
These are
Wow.
good guesses. Bill, what do you
Yeah.
think?
I was thinking it was like five.
Two, maybe.
Two.
It's
Two?
Well,
yeah.
that's my guess, just upside down.
Yeah. It was kind of surprising that this 5-inch tall spoiler only used 2.3 horsepower in drag.
Wow.
That's it.
Okay.
That's almost nothing. So when people say, "Oh, I don't want to aero my car for endurance racing," and we've already gone over the things that they can do for free, and here's the spoiler that is 2.3 horsepower loss, which is nothing, and they gain over 100 pounds of downforce, which means they lost that less rear grip, which means the car is going faster. And on average, like on a decent track like pit race, a spoiler would probably be, 2 to 2.5 seconds faster per lap.
I'm sorry, I have to correct you. Pit race is more than a decent track, by the way.
I know. Yeah.
Everybody, let's just have a moment of silence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really.
Okay.
That's so sad. I'm so sad. Yeah. I'll be there in a couple weeks, by the way, for the last event.
Again? Oh,
Yeah.
you got me jelly.
Yeah. I'm coaching that last event with Hooked on Driving. I'm super stoked. Anyway, um, yeah, so the spoiler was really not draggy at a height of 5 inches. When we cranked it up to 8 inches, it was draggier, and at 10 inches, it was really draggy. But of course,
Those are huge.
yeah, the downforce just keeps going up. This was one of those Blackbird FabWorks spoilers that you can change the angle,
Oh, okay.
basically. So we could 5 inches as low as we could put it, and 10 inches was as high as we could put it. So we just tried three things. Um, the wing we tried, the 9 Lives Racing wing, was actually more drag than the spoiler, than a 5-inch spoiler, which kind of surprised me. It's still a very low drag wing. I think it was only like on the nature of 2.8 horsepower burned through using a wing, and it made a lot more downforce than the spoiler. But on an endurance racing car where you're like, okay, maybe I don't want to run a splitter.
Right.
I think I'll just use the spoiler and an air dam. That is a fantastic package, right? That like has very little drag, has a lot of grip, and a good, decent aero balance. Um, Before I get any further, I want to talk about aero balance. So we talked about the splitter. Maybe it makes 130 pounds of downforce or whatever, right? 180, whatever you want. It actually loses a little bit of rear downforce because the whole car sort of tilts forward. It has, and it loses the rear. It's like a seesaw. Anytime you put a whole bunch of weight on the front, you lose some on the rear, and vice versa, right? So if I put 200 pounds of downforce on the back of a car with a rear wing, I'm gonna lose 40 to 45 pounds of downforce on the front of the car. That's normal. And the splitters are kind of similar into the wings in that respect. But spoilers don't do that. A spoiler, if you put 100 pounds of downforce on the rear, you don't lose anything on the front. It doesn't lever the car up in the same way. I'm not exactly sure why. I think some of that high pressure area extends further forward. And also it's not as high or as far rearward. But I was just flatly amazed by how well spoilers worked in the wind tunnel.
So, digesting everything that we've gone through so far to this point, which we're not done, a question came to my mind, which is probably Bill overthinking. I know it's hard to imagine, but you guys are both sitting down, so I figured I could do it. Would I want to account for the weight distribution due to aerodynamics at some nominal speed when I start corner balancing and adjusting the weights of my car, either front to back, probably front to back mostly?
I think a person who's smarter than me would probably do that, but I don't. I wouldn't do that.
Juice not worth the squeeze, maybe?
I just think it's so easy to adjust rear aero that I would just do that. Like I think like one of the benefits that people don't talk about much is that rear aero is the most easy to adjust thing on the entire car and has the greatest effect on high speed stability. So if you think about like your suspension, you've got camber, you've got toe in, toe out, you've got caster, you've got your alignment specs, your corner weighting, your sway bars, your shock stiffness, your damping ratios, all of those things.
All that stuff.
Yeah, that shit's confusing, dude. And what do I need to make my car handle better? Well, the rear wing is such an easy adjustable thing. Like you could be like, okay, the car feels, really loose in high speed corners. Add wing angle. Oh, the car's pushing a little bit too much in, high speed corners. Well, take a little wing out. Like it's one of the easiest things to adjust.
Right.
And I think so I wouldn't also look, I wouldn't be able to calculate, oh, this is going to add so much downforce and we're going to want to do this to the corner weights. I don't have that kind of knowledge.
Sure. Okay. Overthinking done.
Yeah. Like also I just like we started with eons ago, tire wear
Mm-hmm.
increase is reduced with Aero, and adjustment of the car is easier with Aero. So I love those two things about aerodynamics and endurance racing. Like you
Right.
could even be like, my one driver likes the car loose and my one driver likes the car tight.
Mm-hmm.
And you could change that in a driver swap. Like try doing anything. What are you going to change rear rake? Like what other things
Let
can
me
you
adjust that
change?
sway bar while we're
Yeah,
yeah.
in 30 seconds. Like that's like one of those things that I love about aerodynamics.
We need a
And
spring change.
And I just think that also just being at an endurance race and seeing your car, also, both of those things maybe say, I want to get on Bill and Vicky's podcast and talk about this really low hanging fruit because there's so many ways to go faster in endurance racing. And none of these things are to make the car super draggy. We're not talking about a dual wing and canards and this and that. We're talking about things that benefit both drag and downforce very simply.
You
Right?
forgot the most important thing though, Mario. All this tech, all this science. The car looks cooler.
That does look cooler. I
Right.
love spoilers. I think that like on a street car, a spoiler looks cool and a wing is a little gaudy, but on a racetrack, they both look super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
So I
can you
would,
use a
yeah.
spoiler on like a hatchback, or is that
Yes. So hey, I'm so glad you asked. So on my Veloster N, I've tried, I think at this point, 8 different wings and a couple different spoilers. And I will tell you, yes, the spoilers work really well on hatchbacks also.
mm,
Yeah. Um, and here's the way when I would use one or the other. If you're using a splitter, I would use a wing.
okay?
If you're not using a splitter, I would use a spoiler.
Okay.
I would say the same thing on a sedan too. Like, um, because of that seesaw effect, when you have a splitter, you lose some rear downforce, and when you
Mm-hmm.
have a wing, you lose some front downforce. So you kind of do them both, splitter and wing. But if you're going to just run an air dam with an under tray and some hood vents, yeah, throw a spoiler on there. And either make it adjustable for height or just make a base spoiler that you can add different heights to. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you made like a 3 inch spoiler and you could make it 4 inches or 5 inches just by changing like a metal plate or something.
So when you say height, I'm just trying to get the picture for the people because they can't see our hands
Mhm.
when we're doing our podcast. When you say height, are you talking angle or length?
That is such a good question. Um, all that really matters in a spoiler is the total height above the deck.
Okay.
You would think that the angle would matter a lot, but it doesn't really. Um, and the shape doesn't matter. There's a lot of factors that are very, very small players in this thing. I think vertical spoilers look dorky, so
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't do a vertical one, but I would do 75 degrees, for example. I
Okay.
think that has sort of a ducktaily wedge look that looks fun.
So a nice black diamond slope for the skiers of home.
Okay, yeah. Um, 45 degrees, I think, is laid back a little too much.
Too much? Okay. So somewhere in
Yeah.
between.
Yeah. I mean, I think NASCAR was using 70 degrees for a while, and those look fantastic.
So the grid life stalker in me makes me think to James Houghton's spoiler that he had a square surface area limitation. So what he did was he drilled holes to reduce the surface area so that he still had the right surface area, but he had a bigger effective spoiler. Would that be beneficial or hard to say?
It's hard to say. Like, you have to think that there's some air resistance going through those holes, and so that it
Yeah.
probably did was beneficial. But I mean, there's just a certain height at which the spoiler is going to work, and if that got him into that height better, it probably
Or
would work.
higher. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's also a really good way for for people to look at not look at other parts of the car. If the left hand is doing this, you don't see what the right hand is doing.
Hmm.
And so I've heard so many people talk about his spoiler and the holes he put in it.
Yeah.
And the real magic is that they haven't talked about the other shit.
Yeah.
So,
Plus,
like,
plus he's a phenomenal driver and all
yeah,
the other stuff that he's done to his car, right?
I'm sure. I'm sure that, yeah. So I would do something flashy. I think that like end plates, like wings that have fancy end plates,
Hmm.
are great. It's a great distraction. None of them do a jack shit more than a rectangular piece,
But they look cool.
but they look cool and they distract people from all the other cool stuff that you've done on your car that perhaps they aren't seeing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I saw end plates this weekend that were, I believe they were Coolio in Coolio's head shape. It was kind of funny.
That's so awesome. I was saying that now you guys have an understanding of how you've thought about how the air moves over the top of the car and
Hmm.
underneath the car and
Hmm.
through the car. And you can think about ways to reduce the drag and increase the downforce or reduce the lift, which is the same thing on those things.
Right.
Um, I would love to see what you guys would do with the blank slate E46 that you wanted to take into race racing.
Okay. So I'll tell you what stopped us a little bit. And we've talked about this when you came down a couple times. The hood vents, uh, I've got no problem doing it. Miss Vicki does a wonderful job. Miss Vicki is very concerned about doing it wrong. So, but she's artistic. We're good. We can do hood
Mm.
vents. We've never done fender vents to this point, largely because we kept breaking other stuff and never had time. The one that concerned me from the beginning is the splitter, not from a functional standpoint, but from a dysfunctional standpoint, in that I don't want the splitter to come off and hurt us, the car, or our friends. So until I can bribe you with cow and other forms of meat, I am not going to put a splitter on my car until I see what to do and how to do it properly, because I'm so fearful I'm going to have this 100-mile-an-hour, 4 foot wide frisbee go flinging off into the sunset and go through somebody's windshield. So I'm not going to do it because
Okay.
I'm
Well,
ridiculous.
like I said, I don't think that it needs to stick out. It's really just an under tray that I'm talking about. I
Right, but
really
that can
just
come
want you
off or fall off
oh,
or
I mean,
you know,
talking a wheel, but I mean,
yeah, true.
you can mount it solidly, Bill. I will come down and hold your hand and
That's
we'll
what I
do it
need.
together and
I
we'll,
need the comfort of Dr. Aero.
yeah. And also BMWs especially have very short overhangs, like a E36, E46 splitters are really quite short
They
compared
are.
to even Miatas. So there is, it's a less of a projectile you're worried about.
Yeah. That's just, I've always that was my one concern with the cookie, and I never even thought about the uh performance impact of having a 50-pound cookie on top of a 2,000-pound car. But whoops. I was like, make it stiffer, make it stronger, and everything was just getting heavier and heavier. And Vicky's like, okay, I got this. I'm going to fiberglass now, and
Yeah.
after around my steel frame, we're going to fiberglass this thing, and then we're going to. And this thing just got to be like
Yeah.
so heavy.
Well, I will say this also about splitters. Like I talked about sort of basic bitch splitter, which is just a flat piece of wood. That's not very perform. I mean, when you think about, oh, I got 130 pounds of downforce and I reduced the drag, that's phenomenal,
Yeah,
right? But it's also,
for a jigsaw, right?
yeah, it's also easy to get 150% more than that
Right.
with curvature. And then it's even possible to get better drag reduction using vortex tricks. So that was just the very basic. And I would say take that whole thing and mount it higher than you think. Yes, of course, splitters are ground effects devices and they work better closer to the ground. But like you said, let's not make a death frisbee out of it. Get it up nice and high and make it perform really well and then stick it up in the air so it's just basically the same thing as that basic splitter.
Hmm.
Just,
Okay.
yeah, I'll help you with this.
Yep.
And I'll help you with either a spoiler or a wing mount, depending on how much front area you have.
Just to tell you, this plan has been in effect for quite a while. I have purchased a spare trunk lid for the BMW,
Hmm.
so I can do Spec E46 or I can do Mario E46. I'm ready
Yes,
for it. So we
yes,
just 4 bolts and boom, done.
yeah, that's the way it should be done. Oh,
Mhm.
and I didn't mention this, but spoilers and wings together, of course, can be used together. You could have both if you really wanted to. It does work better.
Oh, that's
So yeah, you could have a spoiler one, and then you could be like, okay, now we're going all for this downforce. We're going to put our wing on, our splitter on, but
hmm
we'll have that another day. Cool.
All right. Well, it sounds like I've got some bribing to do after we complete. Did we miss anything for you, Miss Vicky?
No, I know that I have a partially built spoiler, and I think that we have components for a wing
On
or
the
You do.
possibly
Civic. On the
on
Civic.
the Civic for the Civic. So I think it's just a matter of maybe the Honda itself needs minimal things post whatever we want. So it might be a
This
good winter
season. Yeah.
project. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
go to racelouvers.com,
Okay.
browse what they have, talk to Al Watson about which ones would be appropriate on your car. There's actually
Mm-hmm.
quite a lot of sort of science that sort of science, actual science that goes into the proper size of your hood vent. And he will talk you through that on the phone. He's also brilliant and super kind and will just hook you up. And every single race car should have hood vents unless it's just not legal in the class. I mean, it's free downforce, free engine cooling, free and drag reduction. Do it.
Well, the good news is we purchased our hood louvers from him for the BMW.
Excellent.
The bad news is I'm not sure we put the right ones, but that's okay. We've cut more holes. We can do more holes.
Yeah, put them on something. Make them into
Exactly.
fender vents.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. There was a team there to at the race this weekend at Summit Point where they were running HVAC vents as their hood vents.
He's tested those, by the way.
HVAC vents.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, if you go to Al's site and you look at all his PDFs, he's got, I don't know, 20 PDFs where he tests different things. He tests those sort of air conditioning vents versus commercial vents versus this and that. And you can see that proper hood vents have such much more benefit to drag reduction, downforce, and cooling that that's why I said buy the race lures. Like
Yep.
I'm a DIY guy, but I'm not going to reinvent that science. Just
Yeah.
buy the race lures.
Yeah. And the worst, most expensive, meaning worst, was $600. The cheapest one's like $200. So
Yeah.
that's like one tire.
Yeah, and it
Well,
lasts forever.
yeah.
And it makes your cargo run cooler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All those good things. Well,
Yeah.
cool. Good seeing you guys. Vicky, thank you for staying on even though you're sick. I'm sorry.
No, no problem.
No, it's
I
always
learned a lot. I'm
Okay.
actually excited to start playing around with that.
Cool.
okay.
I'll see you
Hmm.
Well,
guys soon. Yeah,
that'd be
I'll come
fun.
down.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Mario. If
Yep.
people want to get in contact with you, check in with you about all things Aero and keep up to date with what you're doing,
Yeah,
best way for them,
OccamsRacers.com.
OCC, AMS.
Racers.com. Yeah, I don't have Instagram or Facebook or any social media at all. So you just have to go through my website and email me or call me.
Yep. Or see him at the track. Or
Yeah.
have him as your instructor at pit race for the last event ever.
Yay.
Yeah.
So
All right.
thank you, Mario. Glad we
Yep.
got this one in. This is a good one.
Me too. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.